Travel to the mainland using expired home return permits. Suspects appear in court again in model murder case. Foreign Minister Qin Gang holds meeting with U.S. Ambassador to China. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Starting today, Hong Kongers whose home return permits expired between 2020 and the end of this year will still be able to travel to the mainland. The new policy aims to ease long waits at permit issuing offices in Hong Kong. Jackie Lin traveled to Shenzhen this morning to find out what other measures are in place to help smooth out cross-border travel among expired document holders.
It's about 9:45 in the morning and we're at the Choi station about to head north to Lowu. My home return permit has expired in May 2021. Let's check out how the new procedure will be like for people like us. The National Immigration Administration earlier announced that starting May 8th, home return permits with expiry dates between January 1st, 2020 and December 30th, 2023 would remain valid for border crossings until the end of this year. This customs staffer said we could go straight to counters with officers for arrival clearance. But he said we can use self-service kiosks with an expired travel document. The entire process and time taken were the same as before, and we're good to go. Most services on the mainland have updated document verification systems, allowing expired permit holders to get around the mainland smoothly. A hassle-free experience in buying the intercity train tickets. For Hong Kong and Macau residents whose mainland bank accounts have been frozen due to prolonged inactivity, a mainland bank branch told TVB News that it is possible to reactivate them with the expired travel permit till the end of this year with no extra documents needed. Still, some troubles remain. China Mobile staff said we must show a travel document that is valid on paper to buy mobile phone SIM cards under the real name registration requirement. Some education and medical authorities have also adjusted their systems to allow Hong Kongers holding an expired home return permit to use their services. For Hong Kong and Macau residents whose permits have expired like mine, we can apply for renewal at the country's exit and entry administration, including the office right behind me. But we'll have to make bookings in advance on the Shenzhen Public Security Bureau official WeChat account. It usually takes 7 days for the new permits to be ready for pickup. Jackie Lin, TVB News, Shenzhen.
Residents carrying expired home return permits can purchase high-speed rail tickets starting today. This morning, some residents could be seen successfully purchasing train tickets at the West Kowloon station. The MTR announced that residents could either buy the northbound tickets via the mainland's 12306 train ticket website or at designated venues. The 6 suspects in the murder case of Abby Choi appeared in court today. Choi's ex-husband, Alex Kwong, as well as 2 other suspects were charged with 3 counts of murder respectively, while Kwong's mother was charged with perverting the course of justice. The hearing for the case has been adjourned to the end of July, while authorities continue to perform forensic work. Timothy Lee tells us more.
More than 2 months have passed since the murder and dismemberment of former model Abby Choi shocked the world, and the suspects in the case returned to the court today. This morning, Abby Choi's ex-husband Alex Kwong, along with his parents and brother, were escorted by the police to the Kowloon City Magistracy. All 3 are charged with murder. 28-year-old Kwong, his 31-year-old brother Anthony Kwong, who worked as Choi's driver, and his 65-year-old father Kwong Kao. Choi's 63-year-old ex-mother-in-law, Lee Soi-heung, was suspected of destroying evidence related to the case and was charged with perverting the course of justice. The prosecution said today that several of Choi's dismembered remains were discovered in Anthony Kwong's blood-stained car and the Longmei Village house where the victim's headless corpse was initially found. A jacket containing Lee Soi-heung's DNA was found at the crime scene. Meanwhile, Choi's mother, as well as her husband's family, have been added as witnesses by the prosecution. The court agreed to the prosecution's request to adjourn the hearing to the 31st of July, while some 30 kitchen tools at the crime scene are currently undergoing forensic testing. Lee Soi-heung, who had been held in custody, had her bail application denied once again. Two other suspects of the case, 41-year-old yacht company employee Henry Lam and 29-year-old Irene Poon, a female friend of Alex Kwong, also appeared at the Kowloon City Court this afternoon. They were charged with abetting Kwong's attempted escape after the murder. The two suspects were granted bail but are not allowed to contact the witnesses. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Monetary Authority announced that the exchange fund has made an investment income of $97.9 billion for the first quarter of this year. Of that, total income from bonds came to $43.9 billion. This comes after the exchange fund recorded an investment loss of over $200 billion last year. The Monetary Authority's chief executive, Eddie Yu, said the outlook for the next few quarters remains uncertain, given factors such as U.S. interest rates and inflation. Foreign Minister Qin Gang met U.S. Ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, in Beijing today. Qin urged the United States to reflect on its conduct and work with China to get bilateral ties back on track. Sharon Tang reports.
In their meeting in Beijing this morning, Foreign Minister Qin Gang said to U.S. Ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, that the relationship between Beijing and Washington is of great significance, not only to the two countries, but also to the world. Qin said an important consensus was reached during a meeting between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden last November in Bali, Indonesia. But Qin said a series of erroneous actions by the U.S. has since undermined the hard-won positive momentum for China-U.S. relations, disrupted the planned dialogue and cooperation agenda, and chilled bilateral relations again. The foreign minister stressed the top priority is to stabilize China-U.S. relations and avoid a downward spiral in bilateral ties. Qin also urged the U.S. to correctly handle the Taiwan issue, respect the One China principle, and stop supporting Taiwan independence separatist forces. He also hopes the United States can deal with mishaps in a calm, professional, and pragmatic manner to avoid further shocks to China-U.S. relations. Qin also expressed hopes that the U.S. envoy will have more exchanges with China and make constructive efforts to serve as a bridge between China and the United States. Nicholas Burns wrote on Twitter about the meeting. He said he and Qin discussed challenges in the U.S.-China relationship and the necessity of stabilizing ties and expanding high-level communication. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
The Arab League has reinstated Syria, ending a 12-year suspension. It brings Syrian President Bashar al-Assad back into the Middle East's political fold. More than a decade ago, it looked as though he could have been ousted from power during the Arab Spring. Syria were voted back in at a meeting in Egypt. Its restoration gathered pace after Chinese brokered reestablishment of ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Over half of the 22 countries that make up the union sent their foreign ministers to Cairo, although some influential members remain opposed. Qatar is one and did not send its top diplomat. Al-Bashar has called for mutual respect and could attend the next Arab League summit in Riyadh at the end of next week. Coming up, experts analyze why there are so many mass shootings in the U.S. Coronation celebrations continue in the UK. Government issues guidelines for working under hot weather. Welcome back. At least 7 people were killed and many injured on Sunday in Texas after a sports utility vehicle mowed down people near a homeless shelter. The tragedy in Brownsville near the Mexican border was the second deadly attack in Texas over the weekend, a day after 8 people were killed in a mall shooting in Dallas. Brownsville police say the male driver was charged with reckless driving and possibly faces additional charges. It is initially being treated as an accident, though police do not rule out the possibility that it was intentional. The victims were waiting at a bus stop near Ozanam Center, a shelter for the homeless used by migrants. Some migrants were among the dead. On Saturday in Dallas, a gunman stepped out of a car and opened fire at shoppers, with children among the dead. The attacker was killed by a police officer who happened to be nearby. If it feels like mass shootings are in the news almost every day lately in the U.S., that's because they are. If this pace keeps up, it could be one of the worst years for mass shootings ever. NBC News takes a step back and asks, what is driving this deadly trend?
The outlet mall near Dallas.
We start hearing rock, rock, rock.
The Atlanta medical office.
All I see was police cars and SWAT, and everybody's just pulling up, back to back, back to back.
Neighbors shot in Cleveland, Texas, a Sweet 16 birthday party in Alabama, a Louisville bank, and an elementary school in Nashville.
How are our children still dying, and why are we failing them?
The Gun Violence Archive counts more mass shootings so far this year than days, 199. That includes any shooting with at least 4 victims, not including a shooter.
I've been studying this for 40 years, and I've never seen a year like this.
Criminology professor James Fox oversees a database at Northeastern University that keeps track of deadly mass shootings.
Why are we seeing so many mass killings this year?
Well, we have several factors. We have many more guns in the hands of Americans. There's been a large increase in gun sales since COVID. And because of COVID, many Americans are suffering economically and emotionally. And this country is quite divided. People are angry and they're taking it out on innocent strangers.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is a strong supporter of gun owners. Today, he said the long-term solution is to address mental health.
There has been a dramatic increase in the amount of anger and violence that's taking place in America. And what Texas is doing in a big-time way, we are working to address that anger and violence by going to its root cause, which is addressing the mental health problems behind it.
Josh Horwitz is co-director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions.
Is it a combination of factors, including access to guns, but also including mental health?
Well, it's always a combination of factors. Other countries have mental illness, other countries have video games, but we have unprecedented access to firearms. So you take the combination of those risk factors and you layer on all these weapons, all these new guns, high-capacity magazines, AR-15 assault weapons, and you have the disaster that we're seeing right now in the United States.
Some states are making changes. Governors in Colorado and Washington state signed major reforms on gun ownership last month. But in Washington, D.C., a chronic impasse.
I have gone the full extent of my executive authority to do on my own anything about guns.
Across the pond in the UK, thousands of street parties and lunches were held across the UK as the country continued to celebrate the coronation of King Charles III. Legendary singer Lionel Richie, who is the same age as King Charles, also joined the festivities. David Garrett reports.
There are not many more famous addresses in London than Downing Street. Just one venue for a street party. Britain marks big royal moments with these community gatherings. US First Lady Jill Biden joined British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak for a casual lunch in front of number 10. 18 million people watched the coronation on television on Saturday in the UK. Many were getting into the spirit here at London's Regent's Park. People snacked on picnic items, drank champagne and enjoyed the moment.
We want to enjoy it, we want to embrace it, we want to celebrate it.
This party in Swindon got the personal royal approval. The King's sister, Princess Anne, passed by to greet revellers on Sunday. Thousands of street parties were held around the country. Emerging from cars to be greeted by cheers, the Prince and Princess of Wales. The senior royal couple chatted with families who had waited for hours. They tried drinks and food, talked to fans of all ages. Some in the crowd got what they really wanted, a selfie. William and Kate moved on to a star-studded concert in the evening. The King and Queen arrived to huge acclaim from the crowd. It gave the heir to the throne a chance to pay tribute to his father, the newly crowned Charles III.
Pa, we are all so proud of you. And I also want to express my pride and gratitude for the millions of people who serve in the forces, in classrooms, hospital wards, and local communities. I wish I could mention you all. Your service inspires us, and tonight we celebrate you too. I commit myself to serve you all, King, country, and Commonwealth. God save the King.
Thousands gathered and millions watched on television. The event featured Katy Perry, Take That, and Lionel Richie.
None of us have ever done this before. This is a first time ever event for me. And King Charles and I are the same age. Tonight is going to be one of those celebrations where we're actually going to see it and witness it together for the first time. And I must say, I'm stepping into history. Tonight is historic.
As the all-night-long party continued, more superstars joined.
Your Majesty, you can be my wingman anytime.
David Garrett, TVB News.
Back locally, the Labor Department will introduce new guidance notes on prevention of heat stress at work to be published next Monday. The guidance is intended to help protect employees during the summer. Mimo Sungai tells us more.
Summer is coming, and it will be hot. On some days, very hot. For some, it can be a time for leisure. But for outdoor workers, laboring under hot weather is tough. To prevent heat stroke at work, the Labor Department is introducing new guidance notes with 3 levels of heat stress at work warnings. The first level, which is the lowest, is amber, and it will be issued when the Hong Kong heat index reaches 30 or 32 or below, meaning there's high heat stress. For a very high heat stress, with the heat index reaching 32 or 34 or below, a red warning will be issued. A black warning, the highest level, will be issued when the index exceeds 34, indicating extremely high heat stress. A warning will remain in force for at least an hour before being updated every hour. In addition, the guidance suggests different work rest schedules for the 3 warnings, targeting employees from different sectors. For example, security guards belong to the light labor group and should be given 15 to 30 minutes break under the red or black warning. Chefs and cleaners are in the medium labor group. When an amber warning is in place, individuals will need to rest every hour. The extreme labor group includes some construction workers. They will need to rest when a black warning is issued. Nonetheless, the guidance only serves as advice and is not compulsory. Still, the government said it will help protect employees' health and safety.
The most important thing is to set up these guidance notes as an important reference for everybody to follow. And no matter our occupational safety staff and our occupational hygienists, they will carry out inspections from time to time.
Authorities said more public promotion work will be launched to educate employees and employers on concepts such as heat stroke and extreme weather, hoping individuals can protect themselves in hot working environments. Mimo Sungai, TVB News.
Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. Bye.